Could the Cowboys and Raiders really be on the verge of a major trade? Rumors are heating up about potential talks between Dallas and Las Vegas, and if this deal materializes, it could instantly reshape both rosters. Some insiders believe the fit makes too much sense to ignore. Others say the cap math and draft compensation could make this far more complicated than fans realize. So what are the real chances this actually happens? Is this smoke, or is there real fire behind the scenes? One key factor could determine whether this becomes a blockbuster or just another off-season rumor. What if I told you the Dallas Cowboys could be on the verge of pulling off one of the biggest trades of the offseason with the Las Vegas Raiders? And this isn't just random speculation floating around social media. There are real dots connecting these two franchises right now, and if you connect them carefully, you start to see a scenario that could completely reshape the NFC picture. Let's slow this down and really break it apart, because when you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys and the Las Vegas Raiders, you're talking about two iconic brands, two teams under pressure, and two front offices that need to make bold moves for very different reasons. First, let's talk about Dallas. The Cowboys are in win-now mode. There's no more hiding from it. With Dak Prescott locked in as the franchise quarterback, and the clock ticking on some major contracts, the Cowboys can't afford another season of almost. The playoff frustrations have piled up. The expectations haven't changed. And the NFC is not getting any easier. Now flip over to the Raiders' side. The Raiders are in a transition phase. New direction, roster questions, and a team that's clearly evaluating which pieces are long-term building blocks and which ones could be moved for draft capital or cap flexibility. When a team enters that kind of phase, veteran stars suddenly become available, even the ones fans think are untouchable. So what kind of trade are we really talking about here? There are a few realistic paths. The most obvious one centers around a defensive difference maker. Dallas has been aggressive in building a fast, attacking defense, especially around superstars like Micah Parsons. But imagine adding another elite pass rusher or disruptive defender from Las Vegas to that mix. Suddenly, you're talking about a defensive front that offenses simply can't handle. One name that keeps getting whispered in league circles is Maxx Crosby. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, let's be clear. Crosby is the heartbeat of the Raiders' defense. Trading him would be seismic. It would require a massive return, likely multiple premium picks and maybe even a young impact player. But here's the question, would the Raiders consider it if they're retooling and looking to stockpile assets? And would the Cowboys be bold enough to pay that price? If Dallas believes they are one dominant edge rusher away from getting over the hump, then the conversation becomes very real. Imagine Parsons and Crosby on opposite sides. You're not sliding protection to both consistently. You're not double-teaming both every snap. Offensive coordinators would lose sleep. The price, though, would be enormous. We're talking at least a first-round pick, possibly more. Maybe even 2 high picks depending on how the market shapes up. And that's where things get complicated for Dallas. This front office has historically been selective about sacrificing premium draft capital. They believe in building through the draft. But let's be honest. When you're close to a championship window, sometimes you push the chips in. And that brings us to the bigger strategic question, what are the actual chances this happens? Right now, the odds of a blockbuster deal like Crosby heading to Dallas are not high, but they're not zero either. In today's NFL, stars get moved more often than fans expect. Contracts matter. Cap flexibility matters. Locker room timelines matter. And if the Raiders decide they need to reset financially or structurally, they could at least take calls. There's also the possibility that the trade isn't about a megastar, but about a key complementary piece. Maybe a veteran corner. Maybe a versatile offensive lineman. Maybe a proven weapon that fits a specific need for Dallas. Remember, the Cowboys have been linked to adding secondary help. Injuries and inconsistency have exposed them in key moments. If the Raiders have a cornerback or safety they're willing to move, that might be a far more realistic scenario than a Crosby-level shocker. Now let's flip perspectives for a moment. Why would the Raiders want anything from Dallas? Draft picks are always attractive. The Cowboys typically draft in the middle or late portion of the first round because they're competitive. But a future first rounder still carries value. And if the Raiders are looking ahead 2 or 3 years, stacking picks is how you accelerate a rebuild. There's also the possibility of a player-for-player framework. Maybe Dallas offers a young defensive contributor who fits the Raiders' timeline better. Maybe there's a contract swap that makes financial sense for both sides. One thing we know about the NFL, conversations happen long before deals do. General managers test the waters quietly. They gauge interest. They float scenarios. And when fans start hearing whispers, it usually means the groundwork has already been explored at some level. What makes this situation particularly interesting is timing. If this were to happen, it likely wouldn't drag deep into the regular season. Big trades usually happen before the draft or during key off-season windows when teams can restructure contracts and plan around cap hits. The Cowboys would need clarity on how a major acquisition fits into their financial future, especially with Prescott's deal and other looming extensions. Let's talk risk. For Dallas, trading major assets for a Raiders star would be a win-now gamble. If it works and they make a deep playoff run, the move becomes legendary. If it fails and they fall short again, the criticism will be relentless. Giving up premium picks can haunt a team if injuries strike or performance dips. For Las Vegas, moving a marquee player sends a message. It tells the locker room that the organization is pivoting. That's not always easy. Veterans want to win now. Fans don't like seeing stars leave. But if the return is strong enough, front offices sometimes accept short-term backlash for long-term gain. Let's imagine the ripple effect. If Dallas adds a game-changing defender from Vegas, they instantly shift the NFC power conversation. Suddenly, matchups against top contenders feel different. Offensive lines have to adjust schemes. Quarterbacks have to speed up reads. The Cowboys' identity becomes even more aggressive. It would also send a message across the league: Dallas is done playing conservative. On the Raiders' side, it would mark the beginning of a new era. More youth. More draft-driven development. Possibly even positioning for a quarterback of the future if they're not fully settled at that position long-term. So again, what are the chances? If we're being realistic, blockbuster trades are rare. They make headlines because they don't happen every week. But the NFL has become more aggressive in recent years. Teams are less afraid to move stars if the value aligns. Right now, I'd say the chances of a minor to moderate trade between these teams are significantly higher than a massive superstar swap. But the fact that the idea is even circulating tells you something. There's smoke. And in this league, smoke often means conversations are at least taking place. The Cowboys know their window. The Raiders know their timeline. And when two teams with different trajectories align, that's when deals get done. If you're a Cowboys fan, the excitement is obvious. The thought of adding another elite piece to an already talented roster is thrilling. It feels like that final push. If you're a Raiders fan, it's more complicated. You don't want to lose stars. But you also understand the value of long-term flexibility and draft capital. Ultimately, this will come down to price and philosophy. Are the Cowboys willing to sacrifice tomorrow for a stronger shot today? Are the Raiders willing to move a cornerstone for a package that accelerates their rebuild? The next few weeks will be telling. Pay attention to cap restructures. Watch for draft positioning. Listen closely to press conference language. When executives start using phrases like evaluating all options or open to conversations, that's when the temperature rises. And if a trade does go down between Dallas and Las Vegas, it won't just be another transaction. It will be a statement. For the Cowboys, it would scream urgency. For the Raiders, it would signal transformation. So buckle up, because even if nothing happens, the mere possibility tells us both franchises are thinking aggressively. And in today's NFL, aggressive thinking often leads to headline-making moves. If you want to stay ahead of every rumor, every insider update, and every twist in this developing story, make sure you're locked in right here. Because if a major Raiders Cowboys trade is brewing, you'll hear it here first. And trust me, if this deal actually happens, the entire league will be talking about it the next morning.